Hello everyone, how's it going? I'm the Timmeister and welcome back to Rockport. In this episode, we're going to straddle our way all the way to the very edge of the map, and we're going to be building a very critical piece of infrastructure. Today I'm going to be building the city's water treatment plant. So of course this is normally in real life a very large piece of infrastructure. It didn't really make sense to build it anywhere near downtown, and with the landscape of this entire map being very jagged and rugged, it left me with very few options on where I could build this. So this is why I chose to build it in this spot right here on the very edge of the map. Now the first thing I wanted to do for this build is construct these large water basins that you typically find in larger water treatment plants. And this is quite simply done by laying down some dirt roads and then using the extra landscaping tools to carve out these basins. I then use the water spawner tool. I'm not sure exactly what it's called, but it's these nodes that spawn water. And I place them right in the middle of these basins, lower them down to an appropriate level so it doesn't flood the entire area. And once you hit play, they will fill up in no time. Now, following the theme with the rest of the city, I not only want this water treatment plant to look good, I also want it to be functional. So I'm going to be placing all of the water treatment plant buildings that are available in the game and placing multiple of them because this water treatment plant is going to have to serve the entire city for a long time to come. Now, I may have to build a second one eventually because I don't know how this is going to handle demand as the city scales, but we'll just monitor our water usage as the city expands, and then we'll make an assessment at some point in the future. Now, this was a very interesting build for me because I've never built anything like this. Every time I've been playing the game, I've been placing mostly services down as needed, and I just kind of plop them down to get rid of the problem. Now, for this build, I wanted to do the complete opposite. I want to preemptively plop down all of the services that we're going to need for the city before even starting the city. So I know a lot of you were excited for me to get into downtown, which I kind of claimed I was going to do a little earlier. But, you know, the whole water issue popped into my head, and I didn't really want to have to place down a bunch of temporary pumps and then move them a bunch of times in the future. So I just kind of wanted to get this water treatment plant out of the way and then get into the city afterwards. So I think next episode I'll get into the rest of the city. So what I'm doing now is, of course, this water treatment plant is located in the middle of the nowhere right now, and I need to provide a road connection to it. So I'm just going to be building a simple 2-lane road closer to the city, and I'm actually going to create an interchange a bit later in the episode to at least hook up this water treatment plant to, you know, the rest of the map so trucks can get to it, and if there's a fire or something, you know, the whole thing just won't burn down. And like any other piece of major infrastructure, we need a main head office. So this is what I'm placing down right here. It's just a regular industrial building, I believe. And beside it, I'm going to place down a nice parking lot. So with this being a more somewhat modern city, modern Western city that is, I want to make sure that there's plenty of parking lots all over. You know, this is a luxury that we haven't had for very long in the vanilla game, parking lots, and I'm really excited to put them into good use. And I will say, in my last video, a lot of people were claiming that there was too many open spaces in the industrial zone, too many just blank pavement lots with no detail. And looking back, I kind of agree. So what I've actually done off camera is I've gone to a lot of those empty large lots and I've just simply added parking lots. So once those are in use and they're filled with cars, it's going to add another level of depth to the whole industrial area. And I'll be sure to showcase that at some point. And so what I'm doing here is placing down a collection of industrial buildings that I think would look really nice. Now, I hardly know anything about water treatment plants, so I was just opting to place down buildings that look like they belong in this sort of area. So like any sort of storage tanks or, you know, anything that looks like it could hold a liquid that doesn't look like, you know, too oil industrious or anything like that. I was placing down in this water treatment plant. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how the main buildings turned out as far as plopping down the main buildings and stuff. And the remainder of this episode, I'm going to focus on detailing this entire area. So as you can see now, I'm placing down some fences surrounding the whole thing. A couple of people mentioned in my last episode actually that I could have used more fences in the industrial zone, to which I agree. You know, they definitely add an element of that, you know, that industrialness to it. And, you know, you don't want bears and whatever other animals wandering into a water treatment plant. So I surrounded it with a fence and it looks really cool. So again, like I did in the last episode, I'm going to focus a lot on the flora around this area. Of course, this is not going to be like all forest. So I'm going to want to eliminate all trees. Well, not all trees. I'm going to be placing a few trees here and there, but, you know, I want this area to be clear of like intense shrubbery, and there's just going to be like bushes and stuff everywhere. And I find it goes a long way. I really do. Just placing down shrubbery and maybe some trees, depending on the area, adds so much realism and depth to an area. Oh yeah, and this is a weird glitch thing, quirk I found. You can't actually run a pipe from two pieces of like water infrastructure. There has to be like a node in between. It's a little thing I figured out. But yeah, as I was saying, placing down shrubs and trees and you know, any sort of natural asset really helps bring a lot more life into whatever it is you're building. And it's super easy to do. It doesn't take that much time. So you can take a really simple, boring, bland looking area and make it look 10 times better just by adding some trees. And now in the base game with Mr. Mason's trees and all the shrubbery that's available just in the base vanilla game, you have ample choices to make your areas look really, really nice. You know, back when I was building some other cities in my earlier YouTube days, I had hundreds and hundreds of trees that I downloaded from the workshop, and they were great, fantastic. But I almost found myself suffering from like a sort of analysis paralysis, where I had so much choice that I was like, okay, what do I even do? What do I even plop down? So for me anyways, I feel like whatever is available in the base game is more than enough. And I've actually looked deeply into the vanilla tree menu, and there's been a ton of trees that have been added over the course of years since the game has been out. And, you know, I'd say besides the first few trees that were available in like the vanilla game in 2015 when it came out, the trees look fantastic. You know, they're not that bad. So those trees are even like good enough to place down amongst all these Mr. Mason trees, and they look great. Now, of course, there's not going to be a whole lot of them on this map just because the map itself features all of Mr. Mason's trees. I'm going to keep going with that trend, but all of like the newer DLC, like residential buildings that may have them, I'm just going to keep as is. But that being said, a lot of people in the last episode recommended to me that I use the Bob mod, B-O-B, and with that I can change props that are on vanilla buildings. So I can change whatever tree into whatever tree I choose. You know, you can literally switch anything for anything else. And I wasn't really aware of that mod because back in my day when I was using mods heavily, it was the prop changer tool. But the Bob mod looks like a little bit more, you know, modernized for the later versions of the game. So I'm gonna give that a try, and you know, we'll see how it goes. So here I am connecting up the pipes to the rest of the city. I will be removing some of these pumps. I'm gonna relocate them, and I think these water pumps that actually suck water into the city are gonna stay in this location here that I'm placing them. Now, unfortunately, you don't have as many choices when it comes to intake pumps, but for that, I have a simple solution. I'm just gonna dot a few water pumps around the map as well as water towers. So hopefully that's gonna be able to keep up with demand, but for now, these couple of water pumps and maybe a few water towers here and there should do the trick. Now, I'll take a minute to talk about mods. I've added a couple of extra mods to my collection. As I was saying, I may add the Bob mod a little bit later on, but I am not subscribed to it at the point of making this video. So for this episode, I've actually subscribed to 3 new mods, and they are all from the same creator. There is the line tool, tree control, and prop control. And these mods are going to make it super easy to create this seawall right here that you're seeing me build. Now, I'm using just the default vanilla rocks, and using a combination of the line tool and the prop control tool, I'm able to create these lines of rocks. So first, what you need to do is enable prop anarchy, I suppose, as it's called. There used to be a mod specific for that, but it's included with the prop controller now. You're able to sort of make the rocks be able to be placed in water, because otherwise you're not able to do that. And then, of course, using the line tool, you just line them up against this edge here, following the water. And then using move it, I copy a section at a time, creating this really, really nice and realistic seawall. So this would be very, very time consuming if I had to place down each rock individually. But using this combination of mods, it took me a total of like 2 minutes to do. And I'm gonna place down some reeds and some shrubbery along the seawall to make it look really nice. And like I said, I also downloaded tree control. This is mostly just for tree anarchy, as sometimes I like to place trees in specific areas where otherwise you wouldn't be able to. And I wanted random tree rotation as well. So there used to be a mod called random tree rotation. It's no longer supported, but it is included in tree control. And this just makes it so the trees aren't all in the same orientation. So they're just kind of like randomly rotated, making your trees look a little better. So this is the water treatment plant in its completed form. Let me know down in the comments what you think. If there's any improvements I could make to it or any changes that you would have made, let me know. So now I'm gonna hop on over to the other side of the map. Well, not quite, just a little bit closer to downtown, and I'm gonna build an interchange that'll connect this water treatment plant up to the rest of the city. Now this is just gonna be a matter of a couple of minutes, and I'm just gonna quickly create a simple diamond interchange. But it's not actually that simple because we're dealing with a very sharp right turn here, or left, depending on which way you're headed down the highway. And I'm kind of dealing with some space constraints here, so it's going to be a bit of a challenge. Lately, I've really been enjoying using the node controller mod because it makes it way easier to create realistic and smooth looking off and on ramps. So I'm going to be using this mod going forward in the entire city because, you know, it's a huge time saver is what it is, because it is possible to get smooth transitions using no mods at all, but it requires a lot of effort and a lot of like trial and error oftentimes, especially if you're dealing with like weird curves and stuff. So again, using the node controller, it just makes it way easier. Because in the future, when the city really develops, I want to create some driving videos through the city, as I do with a number of my other cities that I've built. And yeah, I just want to add another element of realism to this. Another mod I'm going to be making use of this episode is the intersection marking tool. Now this one, I still haven't got used to it. I've used it like a ton in my Timbuktu days, but I've never used it since, and I'm a little bit rusty. But this mod is so amazing at creating realistic interchanges. It is a must-have. I'm going to try to use it a ton in this series as well, because the results that you can get from this mod are absolutely worth the effort. Now, I don't want to bore you too much with me struggling here, so I'm just going to skip ahead. I'm going to add a couple of props, and this is the result that you can get from using just a few mods. And that's going to be it for this video, so thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, leave a comment, let me know what you think about what we've built today, and consider subscribing to the channel if you do enjoy the content. Next episode, I think we should start to get into the actual city. So as far as like homes and businesses go, we should really start to get into that kind of stuff. But until the next episode, take care, guys.